Thank you, Rachel. Good morning. Now, if you look at the agenda for this meeting, all of the vendors who are here will tell you the same thing, that they're totally committed to the channel. And of course, many of you know Cisco. It is our business. We are very channel-centric. About 86% of everything we do is through you as a partner community. But when it comes to cloud, I think we need to look forward, not look back, as to how we keep those percentages where they are. Because as an industry, you all know that we are under attack. And I'm going to show you who's attacking us. Coffee-drinking, chocolate robots. Now, why am I doing this? Some of you may recognize the chocolate robot. It's actually the Android KitKat. It's a version of Android. The mountains in the background and the lake is Lake Geneva, and the location is the front lawn of Nestlé's global headquarters. And Nestlé have 100 brands, $400 billion business, and all of the marketing, all of the big data, all of the cloud business is done by the brands, by Google, free of charge. Free. IT's role is in a different building to finish the implementation of SAP, which they've been working on for 3 years. IT are not involved in that project. All Google charge is to get the information. Free. Starbucks are refreshing their worldwide wireless infrastructure in all of their stores. Last time they did this, they went through the partner channel, went for a bid. Cisco won some, other vendors won some. Google are now running all wireless, rolling it out for Starbucks, and all they charge for free. And all they want, of course, is the information. Why do they want information? Because information allows them to get tens of billions of dollars of information. There is no channel model at all in this world that's opening up around analytics. Now, you may say, oh, well, that's okay, because they won't, that won't affect me. I'll sell public cloud. Our host here spoke at the Nice event and pointed out that no public cloud company is making money. Many of them have no intention of making money. In fact, they have a strategy of never making money. And if they are not making money, what chance do you stand of making money? In fact, Steve went a little bit further, and I'm going to actually equate it to a pyramid scheme, as you see. So then you say, okay, well, is cloud really being adopted? Because if you talk to the CIO, who we typically talk to as an audience, you say, how much cloud have you approved? Well, I've included this. Approved SaaS, I've approved some PaaS, some IaaS. And then we put a little collector, Cisco, little sniffer. Instead of sniffing or identifying boxes, it identifies clouds. And you suddenly find there's a lot of other clouds, as I talked about. And you may say, well, is that a problem? That's good, isn't it? It's good. Until you look at the data. The average company has now over 780 cloud sites. We're tracking 3,800 cloud sites. Only 11% encrypt data. You think SurveyMonkey is innocent? Just think of the questions you and your customers put into SurveyMonkey. Big strategic issues into the public cloud. Only 16% ask for more than single-factor authentication, which means name and password. 84% only ask for that. So 16% ask for more than one. ISO certification has not caught up. And basically, Shadow Cloud is 12 times bigger already than approved cloud, Nestlé. So this looks like an interesting scenario is happening where, and I'm going to use a film analogy, when Harry met Sally. For those of you who know the film, this does not include the restaurant scene at the end of the film. but we do believe there's a happy ending. The fact is that Harry in marketing and Sally in IT are breaking apart. Actually, that's what's happening in cloud. If you look at the business model, Harry and Sally are breaking apart. Harry thinks Sally, as a CIO, is a dinosaur whose job it is to be at the back of the cave and look after the legacy. And Harry's spending all the money. Upload your customer file, enter your personal credit card. What could possibly go wrong? Now, when we looked at this and we had to work out what is Cisco's cloud strategy, we said, let's go back to basic principles. Because as I said at the beginning, we've built a pretty big cloud business, a $50 billion company, 62,000 channel partners, but it's a very profitable ecosystem. But we did it based on a principle of connectivity. Connectivity builds ecosystems. In the same way as railroads connected towns and cities, businesses grew, trade grew. I was in Singapore last week. How can 5.5 million people create such an economic powerhouse? Just won the award for the 9th year, best place to do business in the world. Is 5.5 million people, because Singapore is connectivity. And 25, 30 years ago, networks were separate. And the vendors, some of them are still alive, had their own networks. DECnet, SNA, Apple Talk, Novell. But you couldn't go between them. And this is history, we all know this. What did Cisco do? Yes, we made the products. And we championed the protocols that meant you could join those worlds together. So multi-vendor open standards would create an ecosystem of profit. And thousands of companies grew up around this. It used to be called networking, and then when we did this, it became inter-networking, which became internet. And when we look at the world of cloud and all of the problems, we see the same thing. Vendor-centric clouds, not designed to communicate together, closed standards, data gets locked in, cannot be moved, and actually, from a customer point of view, it looks exactly the same. So the net takeaway of what Cisco is trying to do with our cloud strategy is to connect the clouds, all the clouds, in a trust model that is highly secure, that is driven by policy, that is software-enabled, that is multi-vendor, and by connecting the clouds, we create inter-cloud, and we create a profitable ecosystem which includes you as the ecosystem partners. In other words, Sally has to change. The answer for Sally is not to say to Harry, stop. That train has left the station. It's already 10, 12 times bigger. The answer for Sally is Sally has to put herself at the center of the hybrid cloud. Her role has to change to be a service orchestrator of her own private cloud, which, as we'll talk about later on, is where 90% of the money is, private cloud enablement. The public clouds, in the case of Cisco, all of Cisco's clouds, properties like WebEx, the number 2 SaaS application worldwide, Meraki, many of you will be familiar with these, energy management, security, but also the network of all of our partners, and there's many Cisco-powered partners here. So think of a portal with all of these applications, a marketplace. How can Sally build this in a way where she can guarantee security and policy? Because they're all different proprietary clouds. So if the first problem we're going to solve is connectivity, there's 4 other problems that we have to solve to make this world come about. And we believe that if we can connect the clouds, it's at least as big, if not bigger, than what happened in the first phase of the internet. So the first thing is hybrid cloud is going to need the ability to place a VM, a virtual machine workload, into any cloud, and bring it back if necessary. Number 1 reason for going to Amazon is it's cheap. Number 1 reason for leaving Amazon is because it's expensive, because it's linear pricing. You notice most of the born-in-the-cloud companies, they start on AWS, and then they leave. Reason is pricing. So this is where I briefly talk about the technology. We believe that as you are working with your customers, and using our Intercloud Fabric software, which runs on, by the way, anybody's x86 hardware, runs very well on Cisco's, but it runs on anybody's. You can actually create a rules-based engine for your customer to send a VM to any cloud and bring it back. So anyone who's an Intercloud partner, and I'll talk later on, there's now 45 partners who've declared, actually will be able to receive that workload, and we guarantee the security. It's your security policy inside the organization extends into the cloud. For those of you who know our physical switches, you have line cards in the switch. The line cards become software and they get planted in the clouds. That's how we do it. It's VM level security, lower level granular security. We guarantee it. Single management dashboard, bring it back. Think of Netscape 20 years ago. This is like single eye of the needle to get to data. This is like Netscape for VM workloads, but it's bidirectional. Second problem we need to solve is policy. And we believe that the policy-driven enterprise will be one of the biggest things. Let's talk about policy. In the traditional view of IT, policy was set at the component level. What do I mean by policy? Quality of service policy, bandwidth policy, anything that the application needs, storage policy, security policy. And it's being set independently, and it takes about 6 weeks to set policy when you introduce a new application. What we've done with our ACI strategy is we move policy up. Policy is set at the application and deploys automatically across everything. So application-centric policy using the APIC controller. With cloud, Intercloud partners also put the APIC policy controller in, which means when you set a policy as a user, if it goes to an Intercloud-enabled partner, by the way, on any hypervisor, it's completely open to every hypervisor, so hypervisor agnostic, that policy is automatically replicated. If you're a CIO, just think how powerful that is. You set a policy, I'm under control, Harry's doing his own stuff, I might fail my audit, I might be fired. When Target lost 43 million credit cards, the CIO and the CEO lost their jobs. I'm under control, he's not, I might be fired, I extend my policy, he can innovate, I'm under control. Policy extensibility or replication is fundamental requirement for cloud business models. Third problem we need to solve is data, because there's going to be a lot of it. 50 times more data than we have today. We've just published a cloud data survey, actually yesterday, but as we all know, only 2% of what is connected to the internet today will be connected to the internet by 2020. The problem with this data is that it's not conveniently stored in servers and storage, it's in things. And it's data in motion. It's not fixed, it's data in motion. Social data, Facebook data. So Harry is going to get really excited when he gets his hands on this. Just think what they can do when you can get your hands on data like this. Sally has got an even bigger problem going forward, which is that she's going to have to store the data. Enterprise data warehousing, Hadoop clustering. No matter which way you look at it, that is replication of data, and then you do big data query. It's not going to work, it's going to break, because the amount of data is growing exponentially, and your ability to implement storage is growing linearly. So these lines are diverging. When an exponential trend hits a linear trend, you have to do something different, and we believe the answer is data virtualization, where you leave the data where it is, and you distribute the query. So we bought a company called Composite. Composite's part of Intercloud. Composite means you can do big data query on any cloud, any data, fixed data, structured, unstructured, data at rest, data at motion. Distributed big data queries without replicating the data and paying for the additional storage and compute power centrally. And then the fourth problem that we need to solve is the most important one for this audience. This is a philosophical belief. Our philosophical belief is that the vendor-centric model will fail. We know it doesn't make money. That's mainly Google's advertising power, squeezing the life out of the industry. That's why they're cutting prices 40%. But it has to be partner-centric. Let's take data sovereignty. Not just this country, but about 12 countries now around the world require the data be stored locally and managed locally by a company that's registered in that country. And you know there's a lot of issues in the post-Snowden world and issues and concerns about the Patriot Act. But the fact is that you need data centers in as many countries as possible, which means you need a partner-centric world, not a vendor-centric world. It's not about the vendor using their balance sheet to build out data centers. Because if you do that, you're spending a lot of money and you're not collecting enough. And you can see that in people's results. So what we are doing is we are enabling partners, and I'll show you the types of all types, to create intercloud capabilities in their own data centers, enabling service providers to leverage the power of the network function virtualization, linking them together with our software capabilities means that you can create a stack of services that are not just IaaS, because there's no money in IaaS, but IaaS and PaaS and SaaS. And that's where the money is. So by leveraging the partner ecosystem, all of us working together, we can actually create the full stack. And that's what intercloud is. It's connecting the clouds. And we then use, in our case, we have more than 40,000 customers now running their data centers on Cisco, growing extremely fast. And we bundle the software with every UCS, every FlexPod, every VCE, every OpenStack, every OpenBlock that we've just done with Red Hat. And we actually then connect the enterprises to the clouds. And a marketplace grows up of thousands of applications from hundreds of clouds. Your applications, everybody else's applications, and we create buy-sell because we've created a supply chain, demand and supply on cloud. And when we announced this in March, we said, and we think this will work, and we think people will sign up. And as of today, we have 45 partners. They represent a pretty big ecosystem, about $500 million in cap so far, 300 data centers in 50 countries. The largest direct cloud strategy, we think, has got about, I don't know how many, vendor-owned. IBM are trying to build 50 data centers. Maybe somebody has more. But the fact is that everyone working together, Metcalfe's law, will always beat a direct model. These numbers will get considerably larger over the next few months. So what did we announce? We've just announced that we are doing blocks, integrated architecture, NetApp, VCE, et cetera, et cetera. They all get bundled with intercloud. They're all intercloud enabled. They are on-ramps. We bought a company to do OpenStack, where we will build, operate, and manage OpenStack as a service for customers. That's extremely popular. We are doubling up on Interconnect, the Equinix, have 102 data centers. We'll be using Intercloud to create their direct connect, enable their direct connect through their Equinix Cloud Exchange. They have Equinix data centers here and all over Asia. We announced the expansion of the partners. I talked about, we've announced new services that do the IaaS, SaaS, and PaaS. So security as a service, network management as a service that leverages the full stack. And then finally, we announced Intercloud Fabric is now shipping. So you can now implement this. And that was September 29. Actually, we're making an announcement in Mexico later today, which from a time zone I can't talk about. But there's more things, basically, that we're announcing. And let's finish with saying, well, what role, given all of this, if conceptually I've managed to, if I've communicated what it is, then the last question is, what role can you play in this world? Because this is not the Android KitKat world. So we believe there are multiple roles. The bottom of the slide is really the service providers. Now, the minority of this audience are service providers, so I won't talk too much about that. They're going to become intercloud partners. You've seen the announcements, the logos. Let's talk about the top three. The channel partners, the classic gold partner, the hardware reseller, the builders, and the SaaS providers. So the SaaS providers, let's start with the green. SaaS providers are creating software as a service that will sit on intercloud, that will leverage the capability, that will sit in the marketplace, that can be resold by everybody. By the way, that's what we're doing. WebEx is in the marketplace, Meraki is in the marketplace, ScanSafe is in the marketplace. You can sell all of these from the marketplace. And we'll do brokering of workloads globally between nodes on the marketplace. But the money, 90% of the money, is in building private clouds and hybrid enabling them. Most people, most companies haven't yet got a private cloud, never mind where we're going. They haven't got a private cloud. They have a lot of legacy apps that they need to turn into a private cloud. And the private cloud needs to be, think of Sally at the center of that picture, needs to be turned into a hybrid cloud so you can have innovation around the edge but control in the center. So policy-driven enterprise is extremely important, and building that capability through the data center is where the money is. And that is our strong advice for you. So to finish, before we get to the Q&A, if you are a cloud provider, like a service provider or your Cisco Power provider, obviously, in fact, you're already doing this. You're talking to us about becoming Cisco powered. But for the majority of the channel, what we need and what you need to make money is to prepare the customers. And just put it in context. There's over 40,000 customers have UCS, and it's growing at about 20–25% a quarter. That's where the money is. Prepare the customers for the intercloud because it's coming. If we can get this amount of ecosystem after 6–7 months, imagine what it would be like in a year. It's Metcalfe's law, the power of the network is the number of nodes squared. So if you accept that this model will work, then the customers will want to connect because it will be not the world's largest intercloud, it will be the world's largest marketplace. Because everybody puts in and everybody can sell out. And you'll see new programs from Cisco to incentivize you to buy and sell from the marketplace. So prepare for customers to do this. And the breakouts that we have here are all around that. And you can see them here, and we'll be able to go into more detail on the breakouts on how you can do that. And of course, we have the booth here. So let me finish here. I think Alistair's going to come back up and ask me some tough questions. But again, just to reinforce, it is about cloud. The enemy is at the gates. Sometimes they don't quite look like you'd expect them to look. They might look like chocolate Kit Kat robots. But it's real. But it's not new. What happened 25 years ago, connectivity became the winning model. It's an open world. It's not a vendor-centric world. And we believe if we can work together, not just as partners, but also the vendors, and create interconnectivity, we can create another value-based ecosystem. I'll finish with one number. We've estimated that through digitization of business processes, actually what Nestlé are trying to do, that the profit opportunity globally is $19 trillion. Now that's a big number. It's on our website, by industry, by process. GE, who are also doing this, General Electric, have estimated it's $24 trillion, so you could argue we're conservative. That's a huge number. If we can work together and provide value for the Sallys of this world in a secure, policy-driven environment, we can access that profit. So with that, thank you very much, and I think we take a couple of questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Oh, hello.
So just to kick off, you referred to Steve's warning about public cloud and specifically infrastructure as a service. How does intercloud help your partners compete and differentiate against those public cloud providers, AWS, Ali Cloud in this region?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, in fact, I had a conversation with a gold partner who's in the audience here over breakfast this morning on that question. So as I said, these public clouds are there, they're not going away, and they're going to get bigger, driven by the economic models and driven by the device proliferation. So it comes back to what I call digital real estate, the eye of the needle. Let me use the analogy. When Netscape was introduced, it was free. Remember, Netscape was free. Its market cap was $20 billion at IPO. Remember, the industry shook. The Netscape IPO was supposed to be the big event. If you read the world is flat, in chapter 1, the big event was the Netscape IPO. Why was something that was free worth $20 billion? Because they were the eye of the needle to get to the rest of the internet. For our partners who have customers, if you can create the eye of the needle to get to clouds, and if you believe that everything will move up, and commerce will be done through cloud and managed services, the eye of the needle is the most valuable digital real estate. So if you are a customer, you don't want your customers to do what Harry is doing, to bypass you. You want them to go through your customer, which is the IT department, with an eye of the needle, so you decide where the workloads go. You actually make money when they go to Alibaba. So I believe the eye of the needle in being a one-stop shop with single invoicing, which is, by the way, it's a fantastic opportunity for the distributors because that's what they do.
Right.
Single invoicing, vertical integration of services is how you can have the best of both worlds.
Okay. Well, let's go to the live Q&A, and the first question we have is actually in Mandarin, so Nicole, do you want to take that one?
Yes, this question is about the channel partners. So in Chinese, it's asking Cisco 在中国将会有多少个 in the cloud 的渠道代理? So Nick, the question is.
I can read it. I can't speak Chinese, but it's in English as well up here, but you should.
How many channel partners you will have in China for intercloud?
How many channel partners in China? Okay, so it's different to what's written on here. That's an interesting one. Okay, we've announced 2 so far. We've announced TCL, and we've announced CCI, and I won't go into what they are. We will be announcing many more partners, but there's been 2 formal announcements so far. And by China, I mean China, not Hong Kong. So the answer to that question is 2 so far.
Do you see any differences to the other regions in terms of the adoption of intercloud by partners in
I think
APAC?
the value proposition is exactly the same, but definitely see differences, and that's been clear to me on this trip. The need for data sovereignty in this post-Edward Snowden world is even more. There's no way a vendor-centric model can work in a post-Edward Snowden world. Just nobody has enough money. And Google has the most money, and they don't have enough money for this. So 192 countries, data centers are expensive. So I think the value proposition works because it's partner-centric. I think the data not only has to be stored, it has to be operated. The key thing here is that because the government support for cloud is so active, cloud adoption here is actually the biggest in percentage terms of any country in the world that we're tracking. I thought it was Australia. Actually, from percentage terms, cloud adoption is now China because of the government policy. So net, I think it's even more urgent to move here. But for here, read everywhere else pretty quickly.
Okay. All right. Well, we're out of time, so I just want to thank you, Nick,
that was
for your
it
time.
For the question. Yeah.
Half an hour goes quickly. So,
yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking you, Nick Earle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Hey, thanks very much. Thank you.